And this is Dr. Fillon's TAG, which was a big innovation in those days because he had created another dimension. The original TAG had no thickness measurement. Did you notice? No thickness. It was just put the bracket on, close to the tooth as possible, and then bend the wire. This one, he put the calipers so that you could measure the thickness, but we have this problem. They're hanging off the DTI. In engineering terms, is a big no-no. Here you can see the lines clearer here for the torque. And you had to unscrew this screw here and then move it back for 2 degrees more, move it down for 2 degrees less. But when you tighten the screw, everything moved a little bit. Dirk Weissman, who invented incognito, so it's quite a brain, he went and did a course with Dr. Fillon as well, before me. And I didn't know he'd actually invented another instrument. But immediately after his course, he had the same idea to invent another TAG, called the professional TAG, because he saw the same problem as me. But I didn't know him then, and I didn't know that he'd done this. And he saw the same problem. Can you see? He's modified it. The height should not be hanging off the digital caliper. So he put the height measurement here by another system and then made that solid. Well, it can spin, but it can't move up and down. Once he's fixed the height, this cannot move. But he didn't change this. They still stayed with the old TAG blade, the torque blade, except for he put a bit of wire there so you can follow the axis line easier. That's me in Paris. That's the little corner I worked in on the original TAG, 2004. It's my first case. I don't think it was a real case. I don't think they dare give me a real case. They give me a test. And that was Jack, his best technician. Very fast. I watched him do 7 arches in a day. Arches, not cases. But he increased his speed. He's still using one of the old ones that have been modified. He's still got the wooden base, which was a bit worn. And he decided that the space was so small to work in that he would set the torque in the angulation. You saw my technician do it outside. Lock it, and then bond on the bench. Here. So he didn't have this in the way of his hands, because originally everything, just go back. See, everything was in one place. You see it? Very hard to get your hands in there and work. You catch them on the torque blades. So the problem is with this, when I took this photo, I didn't realize how important that photo could be to my thinking, train of thought about having 2 instruments. Because he's using 2 different reference planes. He's setting tip and torque on one reference plane. How does he know the bench is flat? And then he's bonding at another reference plane. So it's fast, it was speed, but not accurate. So sometimes change a system, we need new instruments. I wanted originally to change the system, not just the instruments. I had the idea of, seemed a bit vague, the system for bonding for me. Because I was used to working prosthodontics and precision attachments. Everybody know what precision attachments are? Well, that's what I used to do. Nobody else wanted to do it in the lab. It's one of those jobs they give to the technician who's a bit crazy, you know, because he's just so precise, you know. You make a slight mistake, the denture will not fit in. So I decided we could make the BPD, and Dr. Fillon agreed it was a good idea to have the jig so the height couldn't move. And that's basically all we did. Make this jig with a screw so we can control it. And then he said, well, I can't sell it because you've not put any torque blades on there. I said, well, I think you should have 2 instruments. Because I only made the BPD first. I said, because it's difficult to work from a technician point of view. Ergonomics is very difficult, and we could make something else. So the idea was, that's when he gave me the mini targ to look at. And I said, no, we'll make something different. And we made the BPD, there's the drawings, put 0.1 millimeter. You don't need 0.1 millimeter. 0.01 is 100th of a millimeter. You don't need that. I know you don't need it. You can't work to that in orthodontics. That's me. You don't want to see that. Sorry. That's me. I just say, but who am I? I'm nobody, you know? I'm just a normal guy. Anybody can do this if they want to. Anybody can think and modify and work if you just use. I don't consider myself an orthodontic technician. I did general lab work, 30 years of lab work in everything, virtually everything. But I don't consider myself, I don't want to make twin blocks and bionators and bend the wires all over the place. I know guys who are really good at that. So I don't consider myself in their group. So I was the only one who spoke French. That's how it happened. That's how I was sent to Dr. Villion's. We didn't even know what lingual orthodontics was. I was put on a plane to go to Paris, and I had to open Rafi Romano's book on the plane to know what I was going for. So at least you guys have been working in orthodontics before you come to learn from Henrique about lingual and some of the tricks that he has. But I had done other innovation. That was a cover I had of the Dental Technologies magazine, issue number 60, the American version, because I also did swing locks back in the days in the UK, which another thing nobody ever wanted to do because it's just so difficult to do, casting precision. And then I made a flexible swing lock. There we go. Back to the BPD. And the two people who worked on it with me, two Brits, because I had the ideas, but I needed the engineers to make it for me. I had no engineering shop to do it or anything, not even the skills anymore. So I needed them to make the parts. Immediately, we put in the lab the first technician I trained coming back from France to Thailand, which was my job, was to go there, learn the technique, bring the targ back, and start bonding for Dr. Fillion and for anybody who wanted it in Asia. And I had to train Thai people to do it. I trained two. And the first technician, she was very good, very precise. And she immediately, when I put the BPD on the bench, just took everything off the old targ and just left the blades. And she took all the bonding mechanism off and put it in a drawer because she knew it was going to work. So then we ended up with two instruments. We would targ blades on one side, the old one, using the blade still because we had no TAD or the TTS as I now call it. And there's the drawing, 2004. These are just some of the comments about the old targ. A protractor's okay. At first, I used to argue the point, a protractor, it depends on your eyes, what you see left and right. What I see as 1 degree, you might see as 2. You might see as 1.5. I learned that when I did my pilot's exam and was tested in a military hospital for my eyesight, left and right. I didn't even know that, you could vary. And but I'm not bothered about that now, We went for 0.1 of a degree, which is useless for you guys. It just shows what you can do in engineering. It doesn't add anything to the orthodontia. I think 1 degree is enough. So all the instruments which have the protractor could just be just as good. These were the modifications we made to make it good. The lock-in, the slide-in. Ergonomics is very important when you're using something. Speed, ease of use. How many people have bought some instrument that looked good or some tool for the house and then never used it? Because it's just too difficult to use. So it doesn't matter how good they advertise it. If it's difficult, you won't use it. That's me with Dr. Filion and my two technicians I trained in the beginning, back here in Thailand. And the research we did, looking, testing, and we compared the old TAG, bonding brackets, and then rechecking with the new instruments. So 2004 we'd finished calibration of a TAD, quite important. So then we did some intensive lab studies. We wrote a paper that was accepted with the WJO with Dr. Didarat from Chiang Mai University about measuring northern Thais with good occlusion and good facial profile to see if their values for tip and torque changed from those of Hilger's or Andrews or Beckett's, so that we could make a judgment on whether you need a prescription for different prescriptions for different geographical locations, for different morphologies, or just forget that, use your standard brackets, and then go to our indirect bonding. Because if you decide you need a prescription for a certain race, then, and that prescription doesn't exist, nobody's making the brackets, well, your next choice is indirectly bond them with an instrument so you can have that prescription. Because with these instruments, we can bond to whatever value you want. It just means we modify, labial or lingual, and whatever height you want. You know, in the MBT system, if you bond the bracket at the FA point, right? Roughly the FA point. Why do they say in the MBT book, do not go, you can go 0.5 millimeter down or 0.5 millimeter up according to your occlusal problems or whatever? Why do they say that? You know?